Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. I don't know why this crazy lady wasn't escorted out of the store immediately after she stuck her hand in one of the tanks and tried to catch a fish with her hand. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Crazy fish lady loses. Hello all, thought I'd share an experience I had the other day. It may get a little long, so bear with me. I've been working a second job at a pet store for a little less than a year to make some extra money. Damn them expensive college bills. Being an animal lover, I enjoy my job and have the whole outgoing personality thing, so it makes customer service a bit easy for me. This specific store has a policy I've personally never come across before, but definitely understand. You see, if you come in to buy fish, we ask if you already have a tank set up. If the answer is no, we explain that you must set up a tank, allow the filter to run for 24 to 48 hours, then bring us a sample of your water that we'll test free of charge just to make sure the environment's safe for your new pets, and they hopefully won't die a day after getting them. Enter Crazy Fish Lady. She finds me feeding the bearded dragons and tells me she needs help. I smile and tell her I'll be right with her, which apparently is not a good answer. I kindly explain I cannot leave the animals unattended when I'm in the middle of animal care. I finish what I'm doing and ask her how I can be of assistance. CFL tells me her young son won a goldfish at a carnival. He's currently in a bowl, but she wants him to have some friends. I see her eyeing the tropical fish. I explain that unfortunately, due to the temperature difference, you can't mix tropical fish and goldfish. She's getting irritated. I take a deep breath because I know my next bit of info is going to annoy her more. Ma'am, I also need to explain that general rule of thumb is for every inch of fish, you need a gallon of water. Having more than one goldfish in that bowl will unfortunately not work out very well. Overcrowding and unstable levels in your water will cause them to die. Cue very nice customer, VNC, who sees this exchange and throws her 2 cents in. First time I came in here, I was in a similar situation. I was upset I couldn't just buy the fish and leave. I mean, it's just something pretty for my kids to look at, but taking the advice of the employees here, the fish live so much longer, so I don't have to keep replacing them. I'm now a loyal customer here. I know it's frustrating, but you should definitely do what this lady's saying. Uh-oh. CFL snarls at VNC and tells her to shove off. CFL then proceeds to flip out on me. Apparently, I have to sell her what she wants. She's the customer. She then proceeds to put her hand in one of our tanks and tries to catch a fish with her hand. I keep a level tone with her and repeatedly tell her I can't sell her anything, then offer to get a manager. Awesome manager comes over and holds her hand up as CFL goes to speak. Ma'am, words are not necessary. My office is right behind you and I've heard everything. What OP told you is all correct information, and I stand behind my employees. I also think you should leave right now because I promise you I am not as patient as OP, and please don't think about coming back. Can I just throw my hands up in the air and yell, I win? And our second story. Costco. Why don't you ask someone who works here? Turned out I'm actually the a-hole. This is an old story from about 20 or so years ago. I stopped at Costco on the way home from work. I just came in looking for some electronics or whatnot, so this wasn't pushing a cart. And while in the electronics section, this older woman sees me looking over some item, and I can see she's interested in an item shelved near the one I'm looking at. I don't even remember what the items were. Anyway, she turns and asks me some very specific question about the item she's looking at. I looked up at her and simply answered, sorry, I have no idea. A few minutes later, at the other end of the same aisle, this same lady comes up to me with some other item in her hands and asks me, do you know blah, 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 blah about this? Again, it was an item that I had no idea about. And at this point, I'm mildly annoyed and just answered, nope, and turned to go browse the next aisle over. 5 minutes later, I'm nerding out over whatever thing I was looking at in the next aisle, and the woman comes around the corner from the other aisle where I'd left her, specifically walking past other customers to come to me to ask a third question about something I had no idea about. By now, I'm pretty annoyed. It's clear to me that she's not flirting with me or anything like that, and I can't understand why she keeps coming to bug me about these things when all I want to do is waste a few minutes out of traffic. In all honesty, if I'd had any answers for her, I would likely have given them to her, but I didn't have those answers. In reply to her question, I gave her a crappy look in a very condescending voice, said, "I have no idea, but maybe you ought to ask someone who works here," and made an overly dramatic gesture with my hands pointing towards one of the employees rounding the corner at the edge of the electronics section about 20 feet away. The woman looked at me, somewhat offended, and didn't say another word. I didn't give a damn. Why couldn't this woman leave me to my nerding out? I left the electronics section and wandered off, and after another 20 or so minutes of walking around and just avoiding traffic, picked up some grocery item or another and walked to the cashier line to pay for it. As my turn came up to pay, I pulled out my wallet looking for my membership card, and I couldn't find it. I knew I had to show it to get into the store and quickly checked all my pants pockets, no card. The cashier smiles at me and points to my chest. I looked where she was pointing. In a split second, I realized, maybe not for the first time ever, that I was a giant a-hole. So my employer had access control on all buildings if you scanned your employee ID card at the door of any of these buildings to enter. Employees were also obliged to display their IDs at all times while on work property. Many people wore the badge attached to one of those retractable cords that you clip to your belt. Some wore their badge on a loop of ribbon around their neck, and others, like myself, wore their badge in a transparent pouch that was designed to clip onto a shirt or jacket pocket. My employer also required business attire, so on my way home from work, I was dressed in leather-soled shoes, pleated dress pants, a white button-down shirt, and a tie. Left the jacket in the car for the trip to Costco. Apparently, I also left my work ID badge holder still clipped to my shirt pocket. At that point in time, it would not have been unusual for me to go in and out of buildings at work a dozen times or more on any given day. After a year or so, it had become a well-practiced and unthinking motion for me to grab my work ID from the badge holder that held it in my shirt pocket, flash it to the door sensor, and just slip it back into the pocket on the holder as I entered the building. Apparently, when I pulled my Costco ID out of my wallet to get into the store, I unthinkingly placed it in the badge holder, since I'd forgotten to take that off and leave it in my car with my jacket. Instead of back into my wallet, I'd been walking around the store looking like a manager with a badge displaying the Costco logo prominently in bright red letters right on my chest. As all this realization came to me in the second or two after the cashier pointed out my Costco ID card I was wearing, my face went a little pale and she asked me if I was okay. I mumbled something about feeling dumb and this being a habit from work as I paid for my stuff. I hurried out of the store hoping I didn't see the woman who'd been asking me questions. It began to dawn on me that if I weren't such a D-bag coward, I'd go and find that woman, explain to her what happened, and apologize for being so rude. Instead, I just left the store in shame, feeling about 2 inches tall. And our last story. A cop versus Karen's Audi. Many moons ago, I was a police officer in the UK. An exciting life of fast cars, illegal substances. No, wait, I was stationed for a year in a shopping center dealing with bratty kids and shoplifters. I just polished off a branded pastry, crumbs cascaded down my stab vest when my radio kindly let me know there was a hubbub in the car park. I donned my big pointy hat to ensure I could assert my full authority with a big boob on my head and made haste to the car park. The long and short of it was someone had opened a car door into another car, an accident and hardly a police matter. I arrived and reminisced longingly for times gone by when I'd drive mid-range hatchbacks slightly above the speed limit to deal with Facebook arguments in the suburbs. 2 cars, a semi-flash Audi, and a much older little runaround. The Audi owner looked like an Audi owner, a typical Karen. The runaround owner, a teenage girl, 18 or 19, with decals showing she'd only recently passed her test. Now the Audi was big, and I'm no forensic scientist, but it being parked virtually over the white line may have contributed to the, judging by Karen's shouting, horrific collision. I have a car, and it being minorly dented is annoying, yes, but this woman was screaming at the poor girl who looked almost in tears. So I step in, the boob-headed hero of this tale. Karen is insistent and loud that I arrest this girl for criminal damage. The girl cries, I didn't want to arrest anyone because paperwork. I tactfully let the Karen know a minor accident is not criminal damage. This she dislikes and again insists, nay, orders me to arrest the crying teenager in an increasingly high pitch, dropping in a comparison between my pay and the value of her car, which was frankly unnecessary. I break out the old faithful "I need you to calm down," which roughly translates to "shut up before you become the issue." She doesn't. I decide to separate the two and suggest the teenager go wait 4 or 5 cars away. I again let Karen know in no uncertain terms that there's been no crime, and if she was adamant in pursuing the poor girl, the both of them should have insurance. Karen's eyes twinkled as she, referencing the ethnic background of the teen too, suggested the runaround probably wasn't insured. My patience is running thin, and I decide Karen has wholeheartedly failed the attitude test. I humor her and step aside to run a few checks with control. This is when the stars aligned. The runaround did have insurance, but the Audi was showing as insured for a male driver. I won't bore with dull insurance details, but it was her husband's car, and she thought the policy for her car covered her for his. It didn't. I had tenaciously served the crown and uncovered a crime. I asked the teenager to leave. Karen almost bursts a blood vessel. I whip out my trusted notepad, my most powerful weapon, and scribble some deets as Karen becomes apoplectic. I raise my hand to quiet her down. "Okay, Mrs. Karen, I'm reporting you for driving without insurance. You'll receive further documentation in the post." She was stunned. I enjoyed this and the short-lived linked silence as I handed her a report and prepared the coup de grace. As she wasn't insured, I couldn't allow her to drive. I offered her a grapevine and that her husband could come pick her and the car up. She called me an idiot for not deducing her husband was clearly at work. I certainly felt like the idiot as I had the car seized while she waited for a taxi. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.